Hello, and welcome to Networking with Michelle. You are tuned into the podcast dedicated to enhancing your professional development by nurturing relationships and navigating the professional maze. Michelle Gomez is the founder of Line 25 Consulting and author of the book Network, Navigate, and Nurture, The Equation to Strategic Networking. Here now is Michelle Gomez.
Hello, and thanks for tuning into Networking with Michelle. Today I have Fly Mom Christine Saintville, CEO of Moms in Charge, where she helps moms across the country learn how to feel good without feeling guilty. She's a sought-after social media expert, speaker, and has participated in a White House press conference regarding the Affordable Spending Care Act within the African American community. She's also the co-author of Whose Shoes Are You Wearing? 12 Steps to Uncovering the Woman You Really Want to Be. Of course, she's a wife and mother of 3 kids. She's based in Maryland. Christine, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Absolutely. I'm excited. So first of all, I have to say this. 1, I love your name.
Oh, well, thank you.
And then 2, I was watching the video you and your sister did, and I just love the fact that you incorporated your culture, the African culture, into your branding material. So Please tell the listeners a bit about yourself, where you're from growing up all the way up to now.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We had so much fun. And I'll just start with the book since you're talking about that. As far as a culture piece, one of the things that was important to us when we decided to write this book was to not just talk about our obstacles and challenges and how we got to the success that we have gotten to today, but it was really important for us to incorporate our culture, our heritage, because a lot of times just in our own experiences, we as generations raised in America, we're originally from Uganda. I was born in DC, but I'm one of 7 siblings. So it was just myself and my younger brother who were born in the US. And so a lot of times we were straddling 2 continents because we wanted to fit in growing up in school. But 1, we didn't look like any of our classmates. We talked differently a little bit. We had a lot of different cultures. And then when we got home, it was like completely different from when we were out and about. And so part of, Whose Shoes Are You Wearing is really a movement to encourage women to embrace all of who they are, regardless of their background, regardless of their culture, their heritage, to really embrace it and to own it and to use that as a stepping stool for whatever you're looking to do in your life. And so everywhere that we go, we try to make sure that we incorporate who we are. We grew up in the performing arts, and so culture has always played a huge role in our lives. So even though, I was born here in the U.S., I know a lot about my culture. Our parents made sure that we did not forget our culture of our, who we hung out with and what we did. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we did that. So yeah, I grew up in Maryland. As you stated, I have 3 kids. I've been married almost 10 years. My kids are 3, 5, and 7. And, I actually left my corporate job in 2011. I was working in human resources for almost 7 years before I left when I was pregnant with my last born. And it was one of those things that I was in a situation, in an environment, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to this, where I just was not happy. I wasn't happy. I was frustrated. It was also a lot of stress, and it was beginning to take a hold on not only on my mental health, but also on my physical health. And, I had to make sure that I was doing what I could to make sure that my baby was healthy. And so, even though my husband and I didn't have any plans in place for me to leave my job at the time, we knew that it was something that I needed to do. And so, I just took a leap of faith. I left when I was about almost 7 months pregnant. And, after leaving, I realized that, in that environment and working, how I was working, even though I loved my job, I loved what I did. I loved, most of the people that I worked with. It was one of those things that I realized it wasn't where I was meant to be. But of course, like many people, I didn't know where I was supposed to be or what I was supposed to be doing next. And, it was after really going through a period of postpartum depression that I realized I needed to start taking better care of myself. And so I actually connected with moms online through social media, through reading different blogs. And I realized that a lot of moms, were talking about the different dreams and goals that they had. And we're also sharing that, oh, well, I can't do that. My children, because of my children, basically because of being a mother, that a lot of their dreams and goals had to be put on hold. And so for me personally, I wanted to be able to tell my kids, I was telling them you can be and do whatever you want in life, and whatever you want to be when you grow up, you can have it. But at the same time, I needed to make sure that I was setting that example for them. And so that was pretty much how the idea for Moms in Charge came about, helping moms feel good without feeling guilty, because a lot of times we want to do things, but we feel guilty because we feel like we're taking away from our children. We feel guilty because we're taking away from our spouses. But for me, I had to learn how to put myself back at the top of my priority list, because when I wasn't taking care of myself, I was stressed out. I was overwhelmed. I was lashing out on my kids and my husband, and I wasn't a very nice person to be around. So I needed to change that myself. And in changing that and finding ways to create time for myself allowed me to be a better person, to be a happier person, and to show my kids that mommy doesn't love you any less because I need some time away from you. In fact, mommy loves you more because I'm taking time away from you. And so out of Moms in Charge, my blog has just been a blessing, really, to be able to have a lot of the different opportunities that I've had to share with moms, to speak, to grow my audience, and now to work with people who are looking to build their social media following for their business. And so that's pretty much how I got to where I am today. It started with me blogging, and that blogging led to multiple opportunities, led to speaking, and led to Purpose Driven Media, which is my company.
Awesome. So backing up a little bit, I relate to you on some levels because my parents are from West Africa. They're from Cameroon.
Okay.
So I definitely understand about just, going to school for a few hours and then coming home at the latter part of the day, going through that balance, and then definitely just juggling everything. We're so young and impressionable, and we're being molded, and it's like, okay, what's what? No one understands me.
Right.
So I definitely understand that growing up, and even the corporate America aspect as well. Because I have a finance background, and then I say, I quit corporate America and went rogue. But you just have to figure it out for yourself.
Exactly. That's part of the journey.
Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, because you did say you left after your third, or during the pregnancy of your third child, was there anything different, I guess, from the first two children to this one? Or was it just you were really walking or starting to understand what you needed to live for, and things weren't right and you needed a change?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I started the job when my firstborn was probably maybe about 3 months old, actually. And, I worked long hours, and, then I had my second child, and I was still there. And it was interesting because at the time, I knew I always had a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit in me, but it was just trying to find that thing. And so I remember going to a workshop when I was pregnant with my third, and it was called Dare to Live Your Dreams. And in that workshop, the speaker, was talking about all these different things and, why we feel compelled to follow our dreams. Some people feel compelled to follow their dreams. Some people will never follow their dreams because of that fear, because of, whatever it is that's holding them back. And the one thing he said, and I wrote about it in our book because it's always stuck with me, is that God will put you in a holy discontent to get you out of certain situations. And of course, I had pregnancy hormones. I'm going to blame most of it on the pregnancy hormones, but I definitely had a little bit of an ugly cry at that moment because I was like, oh my God, I'm sitting here trying to, wait for them to hire a new manager, trying to figure out if it's a different position I need to go to, trying to look for another job. And what God is trying to tell me is that, no, you need to get out of this. It's not going to get better. You've been here for, long enough to know that, even with the change of leadership, the situation has gotten worse. It's not getting better. And for me, that was definitely a huge aha for me to know, because I had been thinking about leaving, the job. And my husband, of course, was supportive. But at the time, you're thinking, okay, I got the third kid on the way. We're about to go from 2 incomes to 1 income. We don't really have, all of that money set up or anything in place. And so for me, it was all of these questions of what if. And then when I went to that workshop, that is really what was a light bulb for me, because I realized, okay, nothing is going to get better until I make the decision to make a change. And for me, that change was I needed to leave. And one of the things that I have a business coach always told me, even when I started working with her, is that regardless of what stress you're going through, regardless of your challenges, regardless of your overwhelm or your frustration, we are always in choice. So whatever you're going through, 9 times out of 10, you in some part created that situation. And so you have a choice to deal with it. And, for me, that choice was I can either stay here, be stressed and cry, continue to cry every single day, continue to be overwhelmed and be unhappy when I come home to my family because I've been so stressed throughout the day, or I can leave. We can, take a leap of faith. We can work this thing out. We can budget. We can make some sacrifices to figure out what's going on. But, and like you said, I can be broke for a little bit, but I'll be happy. I'll be a happy broke person.
Right. While everyone else is looking at you crazy.
Exactly. Oh, and there were definitely people looking at me like I was crazy. So I mean, for me, that was that choice. And even as I decided to start my business, of course, it's a scary thing. And, so I started my business in 2012, and then in 2013, my husband and I decided we wanted to homeschool. So that brought a whole new level of overwhelm. And oh my gosh, what am I doing? What did I agree to here? And then my coach reminded me, well, you're in choice. So stop trying to do everything at once. Take some things off your plate. You're the only person who can decide what you can put on your plate and what you can take off your plate. Like, you have control of that. So you have to decide what you want to keep and what you don't. And so for me, I kind of just always have those two things in the back of my head, when I'm in a situation that is just not getting better, or I'm trying to make excuses for, someone or something. I'm like, okay, maybe God is trying to tell me that you need to get out of this situation. Like, it's not getting better, and the fact that I am always in choice. So if I'm feeling frustrated or stressed about something, then I have to take a good hard look on what is on my plate and figure out what I need to take off my plate, because that's not who I want to be as a person.
So you're making some great points. I like how you say that you're always in choice. And you just shared with us, some personal obstacles you were going through. You just started the business and then you wanted to homeschool the children. So how were you able to overcome some of those obstacles? Like, what are some tips that you can provide our listeners?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the first thing I had to do was kind of, again, take a look at what I had on my plate and decide, what I wanted to take off. So, there are some things that I was a part of that I needed to take a step back from, one of those being my gospel choir at church. So I had to take a break from that for a while, and I actually haven't been back for 3 years. So, but that was a decision that I had to make, because I decided, okay, if I'm starting my business for my family, then, I need to make sure that I'm doing what I can to make sure that they're still a priority. And homeschooling was part of that. And, for us, we know that we want to start traveling more. And so we knew that one of the things we would have to deal with if they were in a traditional school setting is worrying about when they were on break or when they were off, and just trying to juggle who was going to pick them up. And, if I had an event or if my husband was working, who was going to pick them up and all of these things. And so, homeschooling to us was just one of those things that were, kind of a non-negotiable at the time, just for our schedules. And so we decided, who was going to do what. And then I had to make sure that I had a clear schedule in place. What times are we going to be homeschooling? What times do I have for myself to work on my business? Are there things that I could outsource? So I looked at, getting some help on, some of my social media stuff, having someone to help me kind of schedule some things. So looking at just different things that I could outsource so that it wasn't always on me. And then, being okay with decreasing the amount of time that I could post to my blog a week, because for me, that it takes up a lot of time. It's great and it's a wonderful platform, but it can take up a lot of time. And so I had to be okay with kind of decreasing my number of posts. So it was definitely learning how to prioritize, putting a clear schedule in place, and figuring out, what areas I could outsource in for us. And so, we were able to find some support. Creating a support system is so critical. And I talk about that all the time, whether I'm having calls or talking to clients, we always feel like we have to do things ourselves. We're women, we're moms, super women, we're super moms. Like, I still am not that person that embraces that title, because I definitely don't pretend to do anything on my own, nor do I want to do anything on my own, because that would just create a lot more stress than I want. So, for me, I'm always looking at ways to create a support system of people that I can go to for either some advice or to help with different things. And one of the support systems that we were able to find was for our homeschooling. So we found a co-op that's nearby that met once a week, and, the kids take classes there. So that kind of helps us to keep structure with the kids. Online, I have, with my business, I had accountability groups that we would meet regularly. So we would help each other stay on track with different things that we're working on. And so really being intentional about creating that support system and not feeling like you can't ask for the help when you need it, and stop trying to pile stuff on, to yourself. And one of the biggest things that I also talk about in the book is learning how to say no. That was a huge thing for me. And I'm sure you can relate because, in our culture, I wish we would tell my parents no. Like that word was not acceptable. So growing up into adulthood, you feel, okay, you're talking to your boss, like, can I tell them no? Like, I can't tell them no. Like, you feel like you can't tell people no. And so I had to learn how to say no, like, for different things. Like, you feel like you have to be there for everyone that asks you for something. And I had to learn to say no and be okay with it, because if saying no means I can't go have my quality time with myself, then that's not conducive for what I'm trying to do in my own life and in my business. So those are definitely some of the top tips that I would definitely encourage everyone to kind of evaluate in their own lives.
I have so many questions for you. So before we get to the business aspect, how can you maybe elaborate or give some advice to that woman that is married? I mean, and we're about to get into this. You're operating a business, you're operating a household. How can you have that conversation? How can you approach your husband, your significant other, and be like, I need a break. I need a time for myself. I need a Saturday. Can you take the kids and go? Like, can you maybe walk us through a conversation on how to get that going? Because I feel like, although I'm not a mother and I'm not married, but I feel like a lot of women, they know that, but they don't know how to address that.
Right.
So yes, you get the support groups and you probably have your group of friends, your girls, but how can we really have that conversation with our husband?
Absolutely. And I think, to your point, I think we make it harder and more difficult than it needs to be. When I have clients, I've had some clients, and one that I'm working with currently whose husband, unfortunately, is not supportive. So it's about having, a different kind of conversation. This is what I want to do. I know that you don't understand it right now, but I would appreciate if I could have, and make sure that you lay it out for them, because a lot of times we assume that they know what we need or that they understand what we're talking about. But I mean, I had a conversation with my husband. Okay, this is what I need. So on, this day and this day, from this time to this time, I want to be able to go. I love Panera. So I want to be able to go to Panera and, maybe I'll do some work. Maybe I'll just sit there and enjoy my latte. Like, maybe I don't do anything, but I know that this is my time. In the same aspect, I want to be able to tell you, this is what you'll get in return. This is why I'm doing it. But I think if you're clear about it and you set clear expectations for what you want to happen, then it goes over a lot more easier. They're able to understand, they're able to relate. So, the best time to do it may not be when in the evenings when the kids are cranky or when they have to get to sleep or when dinner needs to be served. Maybe you find a common time that works where, you have things that are scheduled and that you're consistent. So if you say that you're going to do it, you're going to have your time, then don't, and I tell people, treat your time as you would any VIP client. You wouldn't brush them off. You wouldn't tell them, oh, well, I'll see you later. You would make sure and you would make every effort to make that appointment. And so if you're making an appointment with yourself and if you're asking for that time for yourself, then you need to make sure that you take that time. And I think it's really as simple as asking, hey, this is what I'm working on. And I encourage everyone, my husband and I have regular conversations about our dreams, our goals, where we want to be in the next year, where we want to be in the next few years, and how we can get there. And that how we can get there is building those smaller goals together so that you guys can be on the same page. And so when there's no communication or when there's assumed communications or expectations, I think that's where the confusion comes. And so I think it's just having that straightforward conversation, to say, hey, look, this is what I'm working on. Can you help me with this? And is there anything that you're working on that you would like my assistance on, as well? And so I think it's a give and take. And I think it's just a matter of making it black and white. It doesn't have to be anything complex, but making sure that they understand what it is you're working on and not assuming that because they see you up at odd hours of the night on the computer, that they understand. Like my husband, I had to get him to understand like how long it takes to do one blog post, like how long it takes to do a sponsored post or to work with brands and things like that. Because all he sees me doing is working on the computer, but he doesn't understand what I'm doing. And so I have those conversations so that, there's a more clear understanding of what I'm doing.
That's awesome. I definitely agree. I feel like anytime you have to ask, that's one I tell everyone. A lot of people, they don't get because they don't ask.
Exactly.
But when you do ask and you're able to say, well, this is what you can have in return, it's usually a winner.
Exactly.
So you help moms in charge. So what are the biggest misconceptions about your business and what you do?
I think just because I started with the blogging initially, I think a lot of people just assume that that's all I do is the blogging, and it's great. I mean, I definitely have had an amazing time doing it. And I think for me, I went into blogging with a business mindset, which, a lot of people don't necessarily do. For me, it was, I knew I wanted to start a business. I wasn't sure what that business was, but I did know that blogging would give me a platform and an audience to share that business with whenever I decided to launch that business. And so I actually didn't even start offering services for my business until probably about a year after I started blogging. And, it was just, okay, how can I joined different blogger networks. But I think that would be the main misconception. But for me, I'm really passionate about teaching. So I love teaching online courses. I have a goal setting course that I teach online. I have online blogging and social media, getting started courses for entrepreneurs. And I also teach as an instructor in the Steve Harvey Radical Success Institute. And so for me, that's one of my biggest passions is really just helping moms to understand you don't have to choose between going after your goals and your dreams and being a great mom. You can do both. It's just a matter of getting some systems in place, getting the support that you need, and being clear about what it is that you want so that we can put some steps in place in order to do that. So I actually launched Moms in Charge first, but my LLC is Purpose Driven Media because for me, everything that I do has a purpose. So with our book, Whose Shoes Are You Wearing? It's really understanding, discovering, pursuing your purpose in life so that you can be successful and happy. And with Moms in Charge is pretty much the overall message. I'm very big on empowering women and moms to go after whatever it is that they're trying to go after. And so what I've noticed just in being in the blogging and social media era is I see, newer entrepreneurs that will get on social media and blogging and not really understand how to use it effectively. So I decided to create Purpose Driven Media as a way to be able to help them understand how they can leverage social media for their business and for getting great opportunities. I mean, I've been featured, most of the media that I've had an opportunity to be featured in has been a direct result of my blogging and social media efforts and then getting into speaking and things like that.
And why do you think business ownership is so important for today's mothers?
I think, honestly, it's just, again, one of those things where you are just not guaranteed. Nothing is ever guaranteed. And especially if you are working for someone, I mean, you can love your job and that's great. But case in point, my sister-in-law had been working with her boss for as long as she was at her job. And that boss had been there almost 20 years and recently got laid off. So, and there's so many stories like that of people that I personally know. And so for me, I like to be proactive. So while I loved doing what I was doing, I want to know that whatever I can create a life and income for my family, regardless of what's going on in the economy, regardless of what jobs are available. And I think that it just gives a lot more flexibility. One of the things that drove me crazy, my kids started in a private preschool. And so trying to figure out how I could take off for their field trips or being there in time to pick them up for different things. I mean, it was tough to do that. So, and I know, for me, I wanted to make sure that I was able to be there for them as much as possible. And I wasn't able to do that in the field that I was in, working in the job that I was in. And I knew that any other job that I got in that same field was going to pretty much be the same. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to show my kids that we can create a life for you that is rich and fulfilling. And at the same time, I wanted to be the example for them to say, wow, look at mom. She's doing her own thing. She's, going. And I talk to my kids about what I do all the time. So they even know, my son will check in with me and ask me when I'm taking my mommy breaks. Like he knows, what's going on. If I'm going out somewhere, I'm doing an event, they know, are you doing it for whose shoes? Are you doing something for Moms in Charge? So I talk to them about what I'm doing, and it encourages them and, gets them excited as well. But it's to leave a legacy. Like I want to leave a legacy for my kids. I want to leave something for them, be able to show them, what it is that they can do if they really want to do it.
And earlier you mentioned Steve Harvey. What are some of the biggest takeaways that you received by working with him and his Success Academy?
Well, first of all, if you have not read the book, Act Like a Success, Think Like a Success, it's amazing. And one of those things that I tell people is to really do things afraid. The last chapter of our book is to do it afraid. Because no matter what opportunity you're going after, there's always going to be some fear, a level of fear involved. And I was working with my business coach, and she decided to change her platform for how she did her workshops. And so she decided she was going to create an online institute for entrepreneurs. And then those who were looking for personal development have classes for there as well. And so she asked me, would I be interested in teaching a couple of classes on blogging and social media? And I had never put together any courses, had never put together really anything in that magnitude. And I wasn't really big on speaking. And so, initially I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I think it's something I need to do. We had to create 10 weeks worth of content that we would basically be teaching live. And so she launched that last year. And I want to say it might have been within 6 months of her launching the online institute that she ended up partnering with Steve Harvey. And so those of us who were instructors and already instructors in the institute, we now, are instructors. They've rebranded. So the inaugural Act Like a Success conference happened in March. And I was honored to be a breakout session speaker at that conference. And so people can get, live tutorials. It's like you're actually in class. So people have busy schedules. And so sometimes you may not be able to drive out to, your local community college or go wherever you need to go. But the great thing about these classes is that they're online and they're live. So you get direct feedback and coaching from your instructors. But it really forced me to step way outside of my comfort zone. And I always tell people one of the things that I think has elevated my success in such a short period of time is because I continue to do things afraid and I continue to step out of my comfort zone. A lot of times we like to do things that are comfortable to us, that are known to us. And the truth of the matter is all the things and the great opportunities are really just outside of your comfort zone. So if you decide to just take that leap of faith to do things, figure out how to do something that will make you a little bit uncomfortable, but it will also put you a little bit further to reaching your goals. And so that just being able to put together those two courses, which is really ended up being over 20 hours worth of content into, 2 courses, has been amazing. And now, I'm actually going to be doing a recorded version of those courses for a self-study e-course that I'll be launching soon. But that really allowed me to see wow, I can actually create some courses. I do know more than I think I know. I do know some stuff. So, a lot of times we're thinking, well, we don't really know what we're doing. But we don't know that much because we're trying to compare ourselves to those around us and the experts that we see and we listen to. When in fact, if you really sit down and think about all that you do know, you'd be surprised at the level of expertise that you probably have.
Absolutely. So I have to ask, because your track record is phenomenal. Steve Harvey's definitely done a lot of great things within the media sphere. So you were invited to speak or participate at the White House. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Well, I've been invited to the White House a few times. The first time I went, I believe it was when the Affordable Care Act first came out, and I was invited to do a press conference on behalf of blackandmarriedwithkids.com, which is a blog that I write for. I'm a contributor for. And then the last couple of years, I've been invited to the First Lady does a Youth Humanities Award that she awards youth programs throughout the country who are doing amazing things. And so I was invited to cover that the last couple of years. And this year I was excited because I was invited to the social event for the State of the Union address. So they reached out to some social media influencers, asked us to come and watch the State of the Union address live from the White House, where we were able to, tweet and share. And, we had some people there from Huffington Post who we were able to do a live, interview with directly afterwards that was broadcasted. So it's an amazing opportunity. And I think it goes back again to just being consistent and being out there. One of the things I tell everyone with social media, it's not just about posting things and sending all your information, talking about your products and services. It's about sharing useful information. It's about engaging. It's called social for a reason. So you do have to get in there, get in conversations, and not be afraid to, just share great content like consistently. And I think that's one of the reasons that I have, been able to get some great opportunities last month. I believe it was last month. I was asked to do an ad for NBC Networks for a series, the AD series that came out on Easter Sunday. And so, again, I think it's just being intentional with what you're posting, being consistent, and not being afraid to leverage the opportunities that you have and going after new opportunities so that people see you.
You mentioned a lot of things that I'm definitely an advocate for, being intentional, being consistent. You have a business coach. You mentioned accountability group. So can you just explain some of the benefits, how has networking benefited you during this journey of entrepreneurship? Probably even before when you were still working.
Absolutely. I would say, I say it all the time. I cannot say enough about the importance of having a business coach, having accountability groups or mastermind groups, networking with purpose and not just going to an event and throwing your business card out to everyone. But for me, I started even before I launched Moms in Charge, I actually went to a women's conference that was local, and I loved everything that she was talking about. I loved everything about the conference, and I had no idea what direction I needed to go with my business. And so she offered a coaching program that I immediately signed up for. And it literally, that definitely was a huge, huge part in how I started Moms in Charge and how I started my business and started offering the different services that I have. I continue to have coaches and mentors that I look to when I'm doing things because for me, it's shaved off a lot of years of learning, and mistakes that I could have made. Obviously, I've made several mistakes, but I could have made way more. But to have someone in your corner who has been there, done that, build a successful business, it's teaching people how to do it, giving you the step-by-step plan on how you can do whatever it is that you're looking to do. That is priceless. And then it built into a relationship of trust, being able to say, well, here it is. And I think a lot of people, free is good. But one quote that one of my mentors, Ronnie Tyler, says is, you can't build an empire off of free stuff. So if you are looking to build an empire, you have to be willing to spend some money to do it. Everything is not free. And for me, it was a non-negotiable to have someone who knew what they were doing in my corner. So yes, I may have spent a lot of money in coaching, but for me, it's paid off. I've gotten my return on investment and then some. I've been able to be featured in different things. I've been speaking at major conferences and having that accountability, which is funny. I'll actually be speaking at, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Paul C. Brunson. Yeah, so he has a 2-day intensive that he co-founded with Ella Rucker. It's called the Weekend Startup, and it's happening in June, second weekend in June. And I'll be speaking at that conference, and I'll actually be speaking about the importance of accountability partners and how to create accountability partners. And I actually just wrote a whole post on my site on, why you need an accountability partner and some of the things that you can look for when you're looking at an accountability partner. And I think a lot of people don't realize how big of an impact it can be. But when you have people who you're telling your goals to and you set a date to them, and then you come back to meeting and they ask you how your goals are going and you tell them that you don't have anything to report, that story gets old after a while and you're not going to want to come to the call empty-handed. So you're going to have to start getting your tail out there and doing what you say you're going to do. And I remember one group that I had, the only time that was convenient for everyone to talk was 6 o'clock in the morning. Definitely not convenient for me, who's a night owl and stays up late. But it was the idea of how bad do you want it? How bad are you willing? What sacrifices are you willing to make in order to go after the goals and achieve the goals that you're looking to have? So, when you're looking at accountability groups or teams, you're able to kind of get that chaos, get those to-do lists that you keep adding to, but you never cross anything off of. Like, you're able to kind of start prioritizing those lists. You're able to start breaking them down into things that are more manageable. And, sometimes what has taken you forever to figure out, someone in your group might have an easy explanation or easy way for you to tackle that problem or that issue. And so, I tell everyone, like, I've always had some type of accountability partner or group or coach or something since I started my business in 2012. And it's definitely not going to change, because that's pretty much how I know I'm able to stay accountable to the things that I say I'm going to do. So it definitely gets your butt in gear to get into action, because if you're not in action, then you're probably not doing what you say you're going to do. And when you say that you're committed to doing something, then it really forces you to stick through with that commitment. So, at the conference, we'll be talking about, how you go about choosing a team, how the different platforms you can use, the different methods you can use, some of the tools that you can use, and just being able to put together, a 3, 6, 12 month, how long do you want to meet? Is there an end goal? What are the results you're looking to get from this thing? And I think the biggest factor is making sure that, one, you're not the smartest person on your team, because that means that you don't have anyone to learn from, and you probably are the one giving out all the information. So you want to have someone on there who can elevate you as well. So you want to make sure that you're looking at that. You want to make sure that, when you're looking at the value, like, you want people who you're going to cheer you on, but you also want people who are going to keep it real. Like, if your idea sucks, then they should tell you it sucks.
Right. No yes men and women here.
Exactly. We don't want that. So you want people who can keep it real with you and who can also guide you and help you feel confident in what you're doing, but not make you, and you have to be willing to be able to take it as well and not be able to take anything so personally. And for me, that was something I had to learn as well. Like, these people are there to help you and support you. So it doesn't make sense for you to take it personally. Instead, just figure out what you can take from it and how to make it better.
So I definitely want to get your blog post on the accountability partners on the show notes. So I definitely want to get that link for the audience. It's something I'm even navigating through right now, like which mastermind groups am I going to participate in and how to narrow down that process. Yeah. So thank you for that insight.
My pleasure.
So we're going to wrap up here pretty soon. But tell us, what's in store for the next 6 to 12 months, and how can our listeners get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm always on social media. So that is the number one way to get in contact with me. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Moms in Charge. There's no I. And so I'm always, looking to connect with people that way. For me, I am doing, again, speaking. I'm trying to get into more speaking as well. I'll actually be speaking at a women's conference in Morgan State soon. And then, I'm looking at different opportunities where I can speak. So I can definitely share a list of different places. And maybe if people are local, I can definitely send that to you as well. But for me, I'm definitely looking forward to expanding the purpose-driven media side of what I do, which is the digital content, the learning how to blog and social media marketing. I do have clients that I work with where I help manage their social media, help them come up with different strategies for using social media for their businesses. So that's something that I'm, still looking to continue building on that side. And again, working on launching these self-study e-courses for those who are clueless, overwhelmed, frustrated, and just want to throw up their hands with social media and blogging altogether. No worries. I'll have the answer for you in those e-courses that I'm developing now.
Okay. Let's see here. Got a question here, random question. All right. So bear with me. If you could take your family away for 3 months, anywhere in the world, all expenses paid, where would you treat them to? All of your family.
Absolutely. Does it have to be one place? It might be a split between. Well, first and foremost, I would say Uganda, East Africa, where my family is from. One, I've lived here. I know the culture. I can understand the language better than I can speak it, but unfortunately have never had a chance to travel there. So definitely would choose that, no doubt. And my husband actually is from Haiti. And so before the earthquake hit, his father had planned to take us on a trip to Haiti. But, with everything that happened, we were not able to go. So those two have definitely been on our top list of places to travel. I definitely can't wait to get there. So we're looking to get there very soon. But yeah, those would be my top places.
I definitely want to acknowledge you for your contribution for women as a whole, as well as society. So with all that being said, how would you define success?
Success for me is really being able to be happy with everything that you have. Just be happy. For me, it's not necessarily about, the money in our bank account. Of course, that's always great. But every day, honestly, I wake up and I'm excited about what's next. I'm excited about where I'm going, what the family is, what's going on with the family. I have a great relationship. So for me, having this great relationship that I have with my children, with my husband, with my friends, being able to, even though, I am a busy mom, wife, entrepreneur, friendships are very important to me. Then I make sure that I take time to still have those friendships. So being able to have friends that I've been friends with for almost 30 years and still communicate with them, still having time for things that I enjoy in life and not feeling the constant stress and overwhelm as well. And so I also want to share my coach's definition. Her name is Doreen Rainey, and she's known as the Radical Success Coach. And she defines radical as having the guts to define success for yourself and having the guts to go after it. So success is different for everyone. And so you can't define success based off of your mentor's success, based off of, your Facebook friend's success, based off of what you see in the magazine. You have to define what it looks like for you. And then you have to get the guts to go after it, regardless of what it is and how it is that you go after it. You really have to, it takes a lot of guts to go out there and decide that this is what you want. And so it's something that you have to make a daily decision to do. And I think that that's really powerful.
Hey, Christine, I definitely want to thank you for your time. For the audience, please go to michellegomez.com, type in the search box Christine for show notes. We want to link you up to all of her information, her personal information, Twitter, as well as her book. Be sure to buy the book, Whose Shoes Are You Wearing? And as always, a personal connection leads to an influential network. Thanks for networking with Michelle.